Welcome to Time Between Times storytelling with me, Owen Staton. Happy New Year. Blwyddyn newydd dda. Welcome to 2022. I hope it's better for you, better for me, better for everybody. As New Year came, I made a pledge to myself to start running again. I used to love nothing more than pounding the pavements, running the miles around my village, around my town. And as I did so, I thought of one of the great heroes of Wales, a man called Guto Nyth Bran. There is a race in his honour, Nos Galon, that happens near Mountain Ash every New Year's Eve. But I have yet to tell his tale. So today I'm going to tell you all about one of these famous heroes of Wales. But first, let us clear our mind of all the rubbish that's been swirling around in there for the last couple of days, couple of weeks, couple of months. Let us get ready for a tale traditionally told at the time between times, the time when it is neither night nor day, but the sun has gone and the sky is grey. Outside in the sky we can see both the moon and the sun, and we know that the veil between our world and the fairy world is wafer, wafer thin. That's the time that people see lights in the sky. That's the time that people see fairies. That's the time that people see ghosts. That is the time between times. So sit back, relax. Imagine that we are at the fire pit in the heart of the forest. Far away we can hear the howl of wolves. We can hear the growl of bears. But here we know we are safe, safe amongst friends here at the heart of the forest. The fire splutters and splurts, and the teller of tales begins a traditional tale. And we know that for a few moments our imagination can run wild. So come with me to the village of Porth in the heart of Wales in the year 1700, where a small baby is born on a farm who would become one of the greatest heroes Wales had known. He was born, he was christened Guto Nyth Bran. Ever since he was a young boy, he was different. He could run like the wind. No one had ever seen anyone so swift, so fast. An early story says that his father, whilst working in the field, once saw a hare running from the forest across the field towards the river. Guto took one look at it and ran and caught the hare before it could go more than 10 yards. He brought it back, carrying it by its ears, and his family ate it for supper. Such was his swiftness. It is said that his mother asked him to run to Pontypridd and back, 11 miles in total, and he did it before her kettle had boiled. Another tale said that he could blow out a candle and be in bed before the light got dark. He was so swift, so quick. A local lady called Sian the shopkeeper, quickly befriended Guto as he grew older. They became friends, they became lovers, and she made a lot of money by organising races for Guto to run in. He would often run against local runners and then runners from all over Britain, and he was never defeated. No one had ever seen someone with such stride, such speed, such power as he made his way across the ground. Challengers would come from miles around, but Guto would always triumph. It is said that he could run so fast that even the dogs could not keep up with him. By 1730, at the age of 30, Guto gave up running for money. He wanted nothing more than to relax with Sian and spend the rest of their life looking after each other. And this was good to begin with. He took off his small shoes that he made for running, hung them up by the door, and started a quiet life near Mountain Ash. But it did not last forever. In 1737, a man known only as the Prince, some say the Prince of Bedwas, started to make a name for himself as a runner of no compare. He used to run quicker than the wind. He was faster than the light. And through his followers and his friends, he started to challenge Guto Nyth Bran, for nobody could claim to be Wales's greatest runner until they had defeated Guto himself. At first, Guto refused the challenge, saying he had long been retired and wished no longer to run the streets of Wales. But the prince kept up his goading, kept up his challenges, until one day he knocked on the door in person, pulled down Guto's shoes from above the door and threw them at his feet, and asked him to challenge him in a week's time for £1,000. Now that is a lot of money now, but in those days it was a fortune, and Guto could not leave the challenge unanswered. So the week later, they gathered in the town square, the prince ready to run. All the people of all the towns, all the villages, from miles around had gathered here. And then, mere moments before the starting gun was to fire, Guto Nyth Bran and Sian answered the challenge, walking up to the start line. There was a hush amongst the crowd. The sun was starting to set, the moon was starting to rise, the time between times was just about to begin, when a soldier raised his gun and fired it to the sky. The shot rang out through the valleys, and both runners set off quicker than a hare. Before long, the prince started to pull away. He was a fine runner indeed, and in his prime, pushing further and further and further. Guto seemed to be struggling. The long years of inactivity seemed to have caught up with him at last. People lined the road for miles around to watch the race and cheered both runners. But all of them shook their head, knowing at last that Guto Nyth Bran had met his match. There was but a mile to go, and the long hill up to Bedwas, steep as a mountain. The prince started to stride up there, a long gap between him and Guto. He started to wave to the crowd, started to cheer himself, for he knew that the fortune would be his. But then something happened that nobody expected, something unbelievable. From nowhere came Guto Nyth Bran. He kicked with his legs and came up that hill with such a pace it felt like it was flat. Rushed up the hill he did, the moon at his back. He powered and powered. No one had seen running anything like it, until near the summit the sweating prince, barely able to make to the top, was overtaken by a smiling Guto who rushed to the finish line. Oh, as he came into sight, the crowds gathered round and cheered to the heavens, for their hero had won. He rushed through the finishing line, and they all held him aloft, cheering and shouting, for the hero had come out of retirement and won the race. Ha! The prince staggered in, but knew he had been beaten by a better man, and shook Guto's hand. Sian, a shop, made her way through the crowd, being jostled and pushed until she hugged Guto, for now they could relax, now they could spend the rest of their lives in peace. She was so happy she slapped him on the back. And then tragedy struck. Guto fell to the ground. Almost instantly, his face turned grey. And as the crowd parted, they all knew that tragedy had struck. For there on the ground, dead, was Guto Nyth Bran, hit on the back by his lover. They say he was borne aloft and carried through the village. Everyone had tears in their eyes. Sian was devastated, never got over the death of her love. He is now buried near Pontypridd in a church, where the gravestone was not erected until 100 years after his death. And now, in the centre of the town of Mountain Ash, there is a statue of Guto, running pose, for his running exploits were never forgotten, and he is still known as a great hero, a great athlete, and a great runner. And every New Year's Eve, the Norse Calon Run heads off. through the night in honour of the great Guto Nyth Bran. And that is his tale, my friends. And I thank you for joining me at the time between times to listen to it. Happy New Year. Blwyddyn newydd dda. If you're not a subscriber to the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. If you wish to buy me a coffee, go to coffee.com/Owen Staton. It would be much appreciated. But in the meantime, stay safe, have a good week, and join me here at the Time Between Times. I also have a podcast called Time Between Times Podcasts, available wherever you get your pods. Until next time, take care. See you at the Time Between Times.